Hi everyone, I'm Kevin Hanegan and welcome back to Know Your Data, the series where we aim to make everyday data work for you. Remember, if you have any questions for us as you watch this video, please leave them in the comment section below. So have you ever found yourself confused or unsure how to spot misinformation online, or seen information, thought it was true only to find out it wasn't? Well, you're not alone, and that's why I'm joined today by Joel Finkelstein, co-founder and director of the Network Contagion Research Institute, which is a non-for-profit organization that tracks and exposes misinformation and virtual deception. Joel, welcome.
Thanks, Kevin. Great to be here.
So firstly, I think a lot of people have heard the term misinformation, maybe even heard disinformation, but don't really understand what it is and how it impacts them. What is misinformation in its simplest terms?
Misinformation is essentially information that is often misleading or inaccurate, but it arrives in a way that's very attractive, either because it saves people from responsibility, it gives people somebody to blame, it promotes a kind of grievance that people share, right? So it can happen organically. Like in the case of COVID, there's a lot of misinformation out there for people who are sincerely distrusting, have had bad experiences.
Absolutely. I guess at the lowest level, it's information and data. So today, fourth industrial revolution, exponential growth in digital technologies, we have so much more data. Has the rise of digital technologies and data led to a surge in misinformation?
The information technologies accelerated the problem with misinformation, disinformation tremendously. Individuals are taking information out of a pipeline coming out of a fire hose, and they don't know what's true and what isn't. The rate is too rapid. When you're bombarded by billions of facts every day and talking to the entire world from your Twitter feed or Facebook, the result is that you can't parse all of it fast enough. And so people get exhausted cognitively from being able to being responsible for sorting through all that as individuals, right? So just the nature of the medium is something that lends itself towards disinformation. Now, on top of that, there are no costs for lying. It used to be that when you live in a neighborhood and someone lies to you, well, I don't trust you again. There's real costs associated with it. But when no one knows anybody else, there's only upside.
So in data literacy, we use this concept, which is a hierarchy of information knowledge. So DIKW, it's data, information, knowledge, wisdom. The data is kind of like the raw data point you get, like my sales are at 12 million. The information is when you start connecting with other data points, like what was your sales revenue last quarter or last year, and you apply context. And then knowledge, you start applying a meaning and a value to it. And ultimately you act on it, right? And then the result of your action, whether it worked or didn't, you kind of gain wisdom. It seems to me misinformation plays a part in different levels of this pyramid, but I'm curious from your perspective, where people are most susceptible based off of that.
It's at every single level. We don't know what relevant data to pay attention to. That's the start, right? Because we don't have the whole picture. And it's fragmented with a group of people who have bits and pieces of it trying to manipulate everybody else. And then on top of that, we don't have the hygiene or the discipline to understand when people are taking the information out of context. That's the second layer, right? And so the result is we're given contextualized information that's already prepackaged by people who are pushing that up the football field, heading towards the goal line, and we just got on the field.
How important is data literacy to tackling the rise of misinformation?
I mean, if we don't educate people, and I would say starting K through 12, we need to pull these conspiracies and these ideas out of the internet and put them into a civics course. And so learning how that happens, how disinformation agents play into that is really critical. Learning how to have a kind of defense against the dark arts, that needs to be something that we are bringing into curriculum across the United States.
What tips would you give individuals about how to spot and avoid spreading it themselves?
The first point, it's really essential that people stop ingesting their news from the fire hydrant and make sure that when they ingest news, we're really thinking critically and putting on our critical thinking hats. And it's important to look at news not just from one source or from one tribe, but there are now news aggregators that are really conscientious about providing news angles from both sides, so that people are actually seeing news that they would normally not see based upon a bunch of algorithms that Google or some other group designates for you.
Again, we could talk hours about this, but this has been a ton of useful information. So, Joel, thank you.
Thank you. It was a real pleasure.
Absolutely. So let's take a look at a couple of our key takeaways. We all have a responsibility to stop the spread of misinformation. It's on each and every single one of us. The goal is not to move away from humanizing, it's about rehumanizing and recentering. And it's about making ourselves more data literate so we can analyze, question, challenge the information, use some of those skills like active listening and practicing dialogue versus discussion and challenging our assumptions so we can spot what's real and what isn't. Joel, once again, thanks for the time today. And for all of you out there, if you have any questions or comments, you can leave them in the comments section below and we'll help if we can. And also click on the subscribe button to receive more videos like this in the future. Thanks everyone, and we'll see you next time.